Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. I'm Sally Burdett, live from Johannesburg. In your top stories tonight. Protests in Vosloorus over conditions at the hospital where 6 babies have died. Residents claim the hospital is filthy. 2 mothers face charges after 4 children under the age of 8 die in a house fire. Now, it's alleged the women were at a shebeen when the blaze broke out. Standard Bank tells the state capturing inquiry why they closed accounts belonging to the Gupta family. We start here. The community of Vosloorus wants Tele Mogherane Hospital to be shut down. Locals say the government hospital in the Ekurhuleni township is a slaughterhouse. Dozens marched outside the facility today after at least 6 newborn babies were killed following the Klebsiella outbreak at the hospital. Masego Ratlaga reports on the heartbreak behind the headlines.
Mandi Sapleto's dreams were shattered when her phone rang on a Saturday evening 2 weeks ago. The woman on the other end of the line told her her baby had stopped breathing. The mother and child had been kept in hospital for observation following the baby's birth.
So, ngizwa le match le ngazitshela kwaba into engizitshela ukuthi I think kuyinto eright ukuthi ngayenza ukuthi abanye abantu nabo bazokhona ukuthola ukusizakala.
Peter's daughter, Little Tulisiwe, was buried on Thursday. She's not the only newborn baby to die here at the Tele Mogherane Hospital.
I told them, can you please take me to the C-section because I can hear that my baby wants to come out now, and they did not attend to me the whole time. My baby at +2, only when the doctor came, my baby was dead by then. I was on the oxygen and they did not want to operate. I cried and I told them, please, you need to take this baby out of me because now I cannot feel my baby. I'm trying, I'm getting weak and everything. That was just when they put my baby did not survive.
Community members say they've had enough.
Anyeke bahlale abantu bangashoni la. Kumdaka, kungcolile. Ema-toilet wakho lokugcwele amashiti agcwele igazi ongazi ukuthi ayowashwa nini. And labantwana labento engibonayo lokuloko bathi bayafa babulawa ama-germs. Kumdaka la kule.
Health Minister Dr. Aaron Motswaledi says neonatal wards across all Gauteng hospitals are 132% overcrowded. He says the province will need to build at least 6 new hospitals to help curb the problem. While some community members blame staff and attitude for the issues, nurses say they are short-staffed, adding that government has not addressed their concerns.
That department is killing us, that department is paying us poverty-level salaries, that department is misusing us, they are exploiting us economically. What we usually do as nurses, usually we displace, we take our anger to the community, to the patients. Let's educate this person, let's tell the community what's wrong in our hospitals.
The Gauteng Health Department says it's moving newborns from this hospital to other health facilities, including the Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital. Masego Ratlaga, Vosloorus.
Now, 2 Alexandra mothers will be in court tomorrow after their 4 children died in a fire on Sunday. The police believe it's a clear case of neglect, as the mothers were allegedly drinking at a shebeen at the time. They'd left the children in the care of a 14-year-old. Police say they will also be pushing to charge the mothers with culpable homicide. Linda Kuhle-Xulu reports.
7-year-old Nhlanhla Ngubeni, 5-year-old Mbali Ngubeni, 4-year-old Sandile Ngubeni, and 2-year-old Amugelani Ngubeni. Their young lives lost when a fire engulfed this 2-room house in Alexandra Township on Sunday morning. Police say the 4 children were left in the care of a 14-year-old sibling who survived the blaze because he was in another room. Their neighbor, one of the first people to arrive on the scene, says she's still in shock. Mdluli says she'll never forget how the children's bodies looked when they went in to retrieve them.
They were bad, man. Bad. umzimba wonke.
Bebashiya from la to enyaweni. Because usandile bengakwazi nokuthi ngizombamba kanjani mangena naye ambulanceni bengazi.
Inyama le iphezulu bisukile yonke. Even nasebusweni.
Police say the mothers, aged 28 and 30, were at a nearby shipping when the house caught alight. The two women are in police custody.
They left the kids for shipping and left the heater on. That on its own, it's a child neglect. That's why we made sure that we have to arrest them.
Meanwhile, the women will appear in the Wynberg Magistrate's Court on Tuesday. Lindokuhle Xulu, Alexandra Township in Gauteng.
Let's move now to the state capture inquiry, which continued today. Banks are in the spotlight this week, and for the first time, Standard Bank has publicly detailed why it closed the accounts of Gupta-linked businesses in 2016. Erin Bates has those details.
In April 2016, Standard Bank told Gupta-linked companies it was closing their accounts. On Monday, it came to light at the state capture inquiry that this was due to the escalating risk of working with the companies.
We found that large proportions of that money were in fact sent to Dubai rather than being spent in South Africa on the farm. A company by the name of Tegeta had concluded the agreement to acquire control of Optimum Coal Mine. We received an email from Oak-based laying claim to about 1.45 billion rands worth of funds that we held for a trust that had been established for the rehabilitation of the mine. We regarded that as suspicious.
The bank's decision soon became the focus of some of the most powerful people in the country. Sinton says Oak Bay Investments CEO Nazim Hauer wrote to the president and the ANC for help. The Secretary General at the time, Gwede Mantashe, then reportedly wrote to the bank's CEO, Sim Chabalala.
We received a request for our chief executive to attend a meeting at Lutuli House with the ANC to account to them for why we had closed these accounts. And then separately, we received a request from a committee which was described as an interministerial committee of cabinet to account to them for why we had closed these accounts. 3 people attending the meeting on behalf of the IMC. There was Minister Zwane, Minister Olifant and Mr. Jimmy Manye.
Sinton goes further, alleging Zwane stated that as a member of the ANC, he had the power to change the country's banking laws.
They suggested we should be more responsive to concerns that they were raising on behalf of government.
Officials from ABSA and First National Bank are expected to testify tomorrow. Erin Bates, Johannesburg.
The Congress of South African Trade Unions is meeting for their 13th Congress. President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed members today, calling for unity amongst the tripartite members, the ANC, COSATU and the SACP. He also emphasised there are no plans to retrench civil service workers.
There are no such plans because this has been peddled around. I can say without any equivocation that there are no such plans to retrench 30,000 workers. The mass retrenchment of public servants is not under consideration.
The President also made reference to reports of a plot against him.
Comrades, I'd like to say this now. If there is going to be any plot, it must be a plot to defeat poverty. That must be the type of plot that we want. It must be a plot to end poverty in our country.
Let's move now to the northwest, and a preliminary inquiry has begun into last week's school stabbing outside Zeerust. 24-year-old school teacher Khadimang Daniel Mokolobate was stabbed to death, allegedly at the hands of a 17-year-old pupil in front of a class writing an exam. Now, the Department of Basic Education says the incident was apparently sparked the day before when the pupil was reprimanded by the teacher for skipping the lunch queue. The inquiry will be conducted in accordance with the Child Justice Act to determine if the 17-year-old is capable of committing murder. Staying with schools, the sentencing of a former Parktown Boys water polo coach has been postponed until Thursday. Colin Rex has been found guilty on more than 100 sexual assault charges. The court acquitted him on charges of attempted murder, rape, sexual grooming and exposing a child to pornography. The Gauteng Education Department will be charging 3 other teachers implicated in sexual assault at the school. And the Gauteng Education MEC Panyaza Lesufie has welcomed the verdict against Rex. Still ahead on eNews, the ink has dried on the new peace agreement between long-standing neighbouring enemies Eritrea and Ethiopia. And we'll get all your money news with Michael Marilia.
That's right, Sally. The rand really feeling the squeeze today. All of this coming with the interest rate decision just around the corner.
It's time now to talk money news, and joining us for the first time is Michael Marilia. Welcome to eNews. Now, Eskom and the lights. I thought winter was the problem, not summer. What's happening?
Seems like a case of deja vu, doesn't it, Sally? Eskom says South Africans won't be subjected to load shedding. That's despite the warning that more than half of its power stations are running low on coal. The utility says at least 4 stations have less than 10 days worth of reserves. The constraints are partly due to the fact that Tegeta Resources is under business rescue. Tegeta supplies Eskom but used to be owned by the Gupta family. Eskom says it will secure emergency stocks via truck and trade. It says some of those stocks could be 400 kilometers away. Here's the spokesperson, Kulupasiwe.
We are doing everything possible to make sure that we keep the system running, but we are not where we should be. We haven't implemented load sharing because we are continuing to divert coal from the stations that are having healthy stock levels to these ones that are having lower levels, so that we can just continue to keep the system running. And out of the 10 power stations, we have 4 of them which are having less than 10 days of coal supplies.
News from one of the biggest media giants, Naspers. Big changes today. Tell us more, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, it is one of South Africa's biggest companies and it is shaking things up. Media giant Naspers says it will unbundle its pay TV unit. Naspers plans to list MultiChoice as a separate stock. The company says the decision will unlock value for its shareholders. It already has a stake worth $155 billion in Chinese company Tencent. Naspers shares climbed just under 1% after that announcement, Sally.
Did any of that have an impact on the markets today, Michael?
Well, it seems, Sally, that it did help reduce the losses somewhat, but it wasn't enough to drag the market out of negative territory. Let's take a quick look at the oil share, down 0.5%. Industrials also down just over 0.4%, and the banks taking a knock, mostly because of speculation that the US is on the brink of another trade battle with the Chinese. Let's take a quick look at some of the other indices. Most of the mining and resources indices doing quite well. There's talk, of course, that that's because investors are heading for safe haven assets such as gold, and unfortunately for South Africa, pulling out of emerging markets. Let's take a quick look at commodities very quickly, and your currencies first of all. We've managed to claw back some of those losses, but investors very nervous about news coming from the United States, with Donald Trump suggesting that the Chinese could face more tariffs on their products. So a slight gain compared to Friday. All things considered, not a bad performance for the South African currency. And finally, a quick look at the commodities. And gold not doing too badly, again benefiting perhaps from its status as a safe haven asset. But of course, all eyes, Sally, on the rand with that interest rate decision looming large on the horizon. That's scheduled, of course, for Thursday.
Yes, and let's hope it's good news and they stay as they are. Thank you so much for all that business news, Michael Marilia. Let's move to news from further afield now. And long-time rivals, Ethiopia and Eritrea, have finally officially made peace. The two countries signed a peace agreement on Sunday in Saudi Arabia, ending a 20-year-long border dispute. The signing ceremony follows the reopening of border crossing points. The first agreement between the two was signed in July. The UN has hailed the agreement.
The signature of the peace agreement between the President of Eritrea and the Prime Minister of Ethiopia is indeed an historic event. we have seen a conflict that has lasted for decades, ending, and that has a very important meaning in a world where we see, unfortunately, so many conflicts multiplying and lasting forever.
After the break, we'll go to Joel, who's standing by at our weather centre for our live weather. Hi there, Joel. And then, Meghan Markle's new solo venture involves bringing communities together around food, and it's all for charity. Let's get all your weather news. Here's Joel Guy. Joel, how crazy is it? Joburg's temperatures were more than double that of Cape Town's today.
Yes, Sally, it's a case of two worlds in this. At this moment, we have a series of cold fronts that are going to be sweeping over southern South Africa for the next couple of days. And during that time, heatwave conditions will persist over the northeastern areas. Now, here's the first of this series of cold fronts. It's already fizzling out but heading towards the southern areas, but behind it we are going to stay with cloud and rainy weather as we start off Tuesday over the western areas of the Western Cape, with another more potent cold front set to sweep over these parts of the country. In the meantime, it's going to stay sunny and hot for the rest of South Africa, with heatwave conditions persisting across much of Limpopo, Gauteng and parts of the northwest. And the heatwave conditions over these areas should continue into at least Friday, so you need to be very careful if you are going to be outdoors. Drink lots of water and try to put on lighter and loose clothing. Now, as we head towards Tuesday evening, we are going to see wet weather spreading into the rest of the Western Cape and also pushing up the west coast. We will also see a bit of drizzle and light rain setting in along parts of the east coast and the adjacent interior, and we are going to be watching yet another cold front set to hit our shores as we go through Wednesday. In the meantime, here's how your Tuesday is going to look like. It's going to be mostly sunny and warm to hot for the northeastern areas of the Northern Cape, cooler for the western sections where light rain can be expected in the evening. In the meantime, the Western Cape will be cloudy, rainy and chilly, with temperatures reaching the mid-teens for much of the province. It's going to be partly cloudy and dry for much of the Eastern Cape, mild for the coastal areas, but warm to hot for the northeastern sections with mostly clear skies. We are going to see partly cloudy skies along the KwaZulu-Natal coastal areas, hot over the northeastern sections where mostly sunny weather is forecast. It's going to be sunny for much of Mpumalanga, sizzling hot around Mbombela. Punishingly hot weather is forecast for the Limpopo Lowveld areas. Clear skies are expected for much of the province. It's also going to be sunny across the northwest Rustenburg, reaching a high of around 37 degrees. Clear skies as well for much of the Free State, with top temperatures in the upper 20s and lower 30s. It's going to stay sizzling hot for much of Gauteng, Pretoria, warming to around 36 degrees. Now, just looking ahead to your Wednesday, it's going to be cloudy, rainy and chilly for the western and southern areas. Rain also reaches parts of KwaZulu-Natal. It will be mostly sunny and hot once again for the northeastern sections. We stay with wet weather on Thursday in KwaZulu-Natal. It will be sunny and hot in Gauteng, but partly cloudy, dry and cool to mild for the western sections. That's all from the Weather Centre for now. Sally, back to you.
Thank you very much, Joel Guy. 42 degrees in Messina tomorrow. You really better stay in the shade. And finally, Britain's Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, is undertaking her first solo venture since joining the royal family. Now, she's helping to put together a recipe book. The book is called Together, Our Community Cookbook. It consists of 50 recipes collected from the communal kitchen at the Al Manar Muslim Cultural Heritage Centre. Funds raised from the book will go towards a cooking project set up after the Grenville Tower blaze, in which 71 people died. The book will be launched on the 20th of September at Kensington Palace. Let's recap your top stories this evening. Protests in Vosloorus over conditions at the hospital where 6 babies died. Residents claim the hospital is filthy. 2 mothers face charges after 4 children under the age of 8 die in a house fire. It's alleged the women were at a shebeen when the blaze broke out. From me and the team, it's a very good night.